Hi, everyone. Welcome to call number 7. Oh my goodness, already 7 calls in. I can't believe it. Today, we're going to talk about one of the biggest barriers you face in your business, those pesky objections and how to overcome them. But before we do, let's revisit last week's topic real quick. So last week, we heard from Amber Dawes about setting your new consultants up for success. Now, I invited everyone to share their best onboarding tips in your group Facebook pages, and I wanted to share the top responses from each group. In group 10A, Vanessa Windsor gave us a great tip. Have your new consultants share their why on your team's Facebook page. I love this tip, and Vanessa, you are so right. Doing this can help them get immediate support from your team, number one, and it reminds them why they're in the business in the first place. In 10B, we had a couple of responses that caught everyone's attention. First, Kelly Beck talked to the importance of setting up a BBL right away. Now, outside of that awesome commemorative pin, it also affords a new consultant the opportunity to start earning some money right away. Next, we have Rachel Miller, who creates an awesome binder that details how to successfully navigate all of these key business building activities. Even more important, the binder reinforces that positive habit of using all of your resources first and then reaching out to ask some questions. Now, these are great tips, and there were so many more on the Facebook page. So thank you to everyone for participating. Vanessa, Kelly, and Rachel, I have something special for you. As a thank you for sharing these great ideas, you'll each be receiving a free lash boost from the Level Up team. So just shoot us an email and we will coordinate all the details for you, okay? Now, today's call is all about overcoming objections. Much like working out a muscle, overcoming objections is something that you become stronger at the more you do it. The more resistance, the harder it will be for you in the moment. But ultimately, you'll end up stronger. Depending on your personal experience and even the background of your prospect, some objections may be easier for you to overcome than other people, and vice versa. But that's why we have an expert on the line today to walk you through all of these common objections and help you feel even stronger about overcoming them. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce RFX Circle leader and Lexus achiever, Leah Pickel. Leah, how are you today? Leah, are you there? Leah, can you hear me?
Can you hear? I can.
There
can you
you
hear
are.
Me?
Yeah,
okay.
There you are. How are you doing?
I'm sorry about that. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. Take it away.
Well, good. Okay. So sorry for the technical difficulty. You can hear me okay now? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you're great.
Okay, perfect. So first and foremost, thank you so much. I cannot tell you how excited I am about being on this call. And this is such just an impressive module. And I think it's incredible that so many of you are participating and taking advantage of this because it's a tremendous program. And it's in place for a really, really good reason. And I love that you guys are taking this opportunity to really take your business to the next level. So congratulations. So what I'm going to start with today, you guys, I'm going to share my story. And my story did start with an objection, which you'll hear, and then we'll get kind of into the meat and potatoes of the training and really hone in on objections. We're going to get specific. We're going to talk about language, and we're going to really get into how to best overcome the most common objections, okay? So you guys, my story started about 3 years ago, and that's not when I became a Rodan and Fields consultant. But that is when I got a Facebook message, and little did I know, a Facebook message that would forever change my future and my career path. So I got this Facebook message from a college friend, more of an acquaintance, to be honest. We had kind of lost touch. And before I even opened this message, I kind of knew what it was going to be about, to be honest, because I had seen what she was doing on Facebook. I saw that she was sharing these really impressive before and afters. I knew she was doing something with skincare. And while I was impressed by those results, I just wasn't interested because at the time, for me, I had a store brand face wash that literally cost me $5. And that was my skincare regimen. And it wasn't like washing my face every single day. It was, maybe a couple times a week. So skincare was not at all on the top of my priority list. So at any rate, before I opened the message, I thought, I'm just going to tell her, no, I'm not buying any of that skincare. I'm sure that's what she wants. So I opened the message, and instead of this friend, Heather, asking me, hey, you want to buy some skincare? She asked me if I would be open to learning more about the business. Okay. At the time, I had a new baby. I was working. My husband was working in law enforcement. And it just seemed that we never had enough time and we never had enough money. It was a struggle, if I'm being completely honest with you. Every month it was, literally the definition of paycheck to paycheck. It was not easy. And so with all of that in mind, didn't have the time, didn't have the money, didn't know anything about skincare, wasn't even interested in skincare, I politely told her no. And I honestly didn't really give her a lot of good reason. I just said, oh, no, I don't think it's for me. So that was my objection. So she went on and I went on and while I did say no, it kind of did plant this little seed in my mind, right? I think that all of us probably have been in a similar situation. So time went on and I watched her business kind of explode. I watched her surpass her teaching salary, which really impressed me because I knew she was, working this alongside a full-time job. And it looked like she was having a whole lot of fun. So she was, it was pretty interesting and pretty cool to watch. So I thought, good for her. So things for us didn't change. Again, never enough time, never enough money. This new little baby that I wished I could spend more time with, but I couldn't. I had to help make those ends meet, right? So then one night, I am having a conversation with my mother, and I'm telling her about the business and the products, and I'm showing her the results, and she's just as blown away as I was, right? But she wants the products. She wants to get her hands on them. And of course, the wheels really start to turn for me then. I'm like, gosh, maybe I could do this. Maybe I could give this a shot, right? And my mom looks at me and she said, you have to do this. You have to do this. Are you kidding me? Look at this potential. Look at this opportunity. What if you could work this from home? And, these doctors, look what they've done with their first brand. They're going to do it again. And just the industry, and you've got to do this. So my mom was kind enough to lend me the money to buy my kit. And it wasn't probably 15 minutes later that I had gotten on the phone and my sponsor had walked me through the enrollment process. And I was a skincare consultant who barely washed her face. So I was a little bit nervous and I got that it was a big blue box at the time. I got this big blue box full of all of this great skincare. And while I was a little bit nervous, I gave it a try. I had promised myself I was going to take this really seriously and I was going to follow the system. And I learned how important duplication was and how hard commitment was and sacrifice. And, I really put my head down and I got to work. So I started to, of course, build a customer base first, right? And that was pretty cool that I was learning from all of these people within my social network that they were desperate for quality skincare and looking for products that worked. So the product started working, this customer base, and then I start to build a team. And then that team starts to grow, right? So here we are. It's been 32, 33 months now. And my life looks a whole lot different in 2017. My husband and I are now home full-time. Neither of us are working traditional jobs, but we run our Rodan and Fields business on our time and our terms from home. So we're home with our 3-year-old and our 6-month-old. And this business has really been such a blessing for us and for our family. And it's just, like I said, the very best decision I could have made for us. We now have a team of over 1,800 people across the U.S. and Canada, and of course, soon to be Australia. And I am just on fire for this business, truly. I cannot say enough good things about our doctors, about our corporate staff, about the resources, about our upline, just what an incredible experience this has been. So that is how I got started. And as I said, I started off with an objection. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about objections, and we're going to really, look at the difference between what I call an objection and an excuse. And we want you to start to really understand the difference between those two, because I think that is really a crucial component to help you be a little bit more efficient in your prospecting and in your presenting. So, an objection. What is an objection? We know that as consultants, we encounter all kinds of questions and concerns as we're prospecting, right? And many of them are completely legitimate. They're expected. They're questions about the structure of our business, how it works, the upfront investment, how we earn money. But you guys, sometimes these questions come across as objections, and they're really just sticking points that need to be resolved before that prospect will commit to anything. Believe it or not, objections are a really, really good thing, you guys. And I know that most of us totally dread them, and there was a time when I felt the same. They put a pit in my stomach. But here's why you should not dread objections. So when a prospect is voicing objections, it really usually means that they are engaged and they are genuinely interested. They simply need to see a little bit more value before jumping in. So think of it this way. An objecting prospect is a serious prospect. An objecting prospect, guys, is a serious prospect. It's someone with a need that's seeking a solution, right? So let's take it a little bit further. Let's talk about the difference between a legitimate objection and a plain old excuse. Let's see how we can utilize each to thoughtfully take over the conversation in our favor. Now, sometimes, definitely not all the time, but sometimes there is little that you can do when certain objections arise. We'll get specific in a minute here, but remember this. They are simply saying no right now. No right now. And guys, we are not in the business of convincing, right? So we just move on from some of those. I bet you they will be back anyhow. And I've seen that happen dozens and dozens of times. One of my upline leaders, Jessica Betancourt, always says, I have more no's on my team than yeses. And that is the case in my organization as well. Most people say no first. I did, right? So let's talk legitimate excuses. You should consider objections to be valuable and useful. These objections are actually just unveiling the social barriers you're going to overcome to close the prospect, okay? So think about it. Our business presentations and our third-party tools are designed to show the value of our business, right? So in crafting our prospecting language, we may be making guesses or assumptions about what our prospects' objections are likely to be. For example, what if I spent 15 minutes telling a prospect all about how I wanted to bring my husband home from law enforcement? And let's say her husband was a successful entrepreneur who genuinely enjoys his work. What if they had a significant income already? Or on the other side, what if I spent 15 minutes telling a prospect about all of the fun I was having, the trips, the new friends, the relationships? And what if she was a total introvert? What if she had no interest in trips or outings? What if she was looking at this business because she likes the social media aspect? She likes the idea of working from home. Maybe meeting new people terrifies her. So how do you deal with an objection? Most importantly, guys, do not panic. Which would you rather do? Scramble for an impromptu and probably inadequate answer, or succinctly and persuasively address every issue? The keys to handling objections effectively are preparation and being proactive. And since you've probably heard every objection countless times, why not work the answers to the most common complaints into your presentation language? Makes sense, right? So you want to try to anticipate and address them before they even pop into your prospect's head. Another method that I personally love is the feel, felt, found method. Okay, I want you to write those 3 words down. And let's do a quick example here too. Feel, felt, found. So here is how using this particular tactic might sound. And this can really be applied to almost any objection. So for example, the prospect tells you they just do not have nearly enough time for another thing. They are busy. And you might respond with this. I absolutely understand how you feel, Julie. I do. I actually felt the same way myself. But what I found is that I can work this business into my family's already busy schedule. unlike the full-time job I once had, the small pieces of time I'm putting in throughout my packed day is actually giving me a long-term investment. I didn't get into this business because I had time, but instead because I wanted time. Okay, feel, felt, and found. So you're really acknowledging, that you're listening to what they're saying. So let's get to excuses. Okay, so this is important. Guys, it is natural for people to instinctively have an excuse. It's just easy. We've all done it before, maybe not even to a business, but it's easy to have an excuse, right? And I think it's especially in our type of business easy. It's, easy to say, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. I don't have time to do this, whatever it may be. So we've got this non-traditional business model. So it's easy for them to give an excuse. My sister-in-law tried selling skincare 8 years ago, and she ended up losing thousands of dollars in some kind of pyramid scheme. Now, sometimes these excuses may reflect real circumstances, but a lot of times they are just an attempt to make a polite exit. So here's what I like to do. I take them off the hook. Your prospect says, I just have to think about it. Things are really hectic this time of year. I'd say, listen, Mary, I get it. This business may not be a fit for you, and that is totally okay. But if you're just being polite, you can tell me. No worries at all. Then see what she says. Now, while I'm too busy right now to discuss this is usually not true, it's in good character to give prospects the benefit of the doubt, right? The way to deal with an excuse is simple. At every point in the discussion with that prospect, you should always be closing something. If either the busy or need to talk to my husband or partner, whatever, objection is raised, ask. Ask whether they have any questions that can be answered now and try to get a commitment on maybe a better time to talk. So that concept of moving from appointment to appointment, right? A reason to follow up. Because really, you guys, you can consider any agreement that perpetuates an interaction a win. So let's get even more specific, okay? So real life objections. These are the ones we've heard over and over, the ones I still hear 2.5 years into the business. And I have to be honest, initially, I really struggled with these. But now that I've spent time understanding them, knowing when to listen and how to empathize, it's become a little bit easier for me to overcome them. Okay, so let's start. Too expensive. You guys heard that one before? I still do. So here's what I would do. I'm going to give you my opinion. I'm going to tell you exactly what I have said when I've gotten these specific objections, okay? So when someone says that to me, first and foremost, and this goes for all of these objections, you guys, just don't get defensive, okay? Let them explain. So I might ask them, expensive compared to what? Let them talk. Show them the comparison. If they say, well, I buy my $5 brand or $5 store brand face wash, and I've got these, eye makeup remover wipes that are $4. Okay, so their skincare regimen's $9. But you have to be sure that they're comparing apples to apples, right? You want to show the value in our products. Yes, they do cost more than the drugstore brand, but we are talking about clinically proven premium skincare regimens. And when you do break it down, it's about $20 per product per month. And don't be afraid to throw that figure out there. Now, it surely doesn't change the investment, I know that, but it may be easier for a prospect to wrap their mind around that. The next one, pyramid scheme. You heard that one before, right? Another one, do not get defensive. Even more importantly on this one, I think. You want to let them explain. So when someone says to me, oh, that's one of those pyramid schemes, isn't it? I could say, oh my gosh, pyramid schemes are illegal, and I could go on and on telling them all about what you see in this slide here, what a pyramid scheme actually is versus what Rodan and Fields actually is. But instead, I let them explain. I might look at them and say, what do you mean by that? And guys, most of the time, they have no idea whatsoever. And so this is another objection, as I said, you do not want to be defensive. So if you reference the slide here, you will see exactly what a pyramid scheme is. You might want to take a screenshot of this one. As we know, they're illegal. Surely our doctors would not put their name on something illegal, right? Pyramid schemes. Okay, next one, too busy. And I know we kind of addressed this in the beginning, but here's another idea. It's all relative, right? So I love this analogy of plates and platters. okay? Some people love to be busy. Some people have a platter. They could fit so much on that platter. They've got full plates on that giant platter. And then we've got our saucer people, right? They've got 2 or 3 things on this tiny little saucer, and to them, that is a full plate. So it's all relative, okay? So don't be afraid to ask them, how much time do you think this might take up? Again, you want to let them talk. Give yourself time to determine that perhaps it's simply an excuse, and if it is, guys, that's okay, just as we talked about earlier. So too busy. Another thing, I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, but that feel, felt, found method, remember, let them know, I totally understand how you feel. I felt the same way. Maybe you didn't feel the same way, but you can reference another story. You know, my friend Heather, she felt the same way too. She was a full-time teacher. But what she's found, you know, is that the long-term investment for small pockets of time throughout her busy day, you know, is rewarding her long-term. Next one, not a salesperson. Not a salesperson. So this is one that I have personally struggled with. I'm going to be honest with you. And that's because I have a background in sales. Interestingly enough, guys, in the beginning of my career, I was in dermatology sales. Totally coincidental, but dermatology sales is where I started out in my full-time career after college. So something that I will use in this particular situation is feel, felt, found. I think that works really, really well. Now, I can't use that personally, but I can reference someone else. So let's say I have a friend or I have a teammate that's a nurse. It's easy for me to say, I totally understand how you feel, Sarah. My friend Julie, who's a nurse, felt the exact same way. She's not a salesperson either. She knows medicine. She's great with patients, but she doesn't know how to sell. But what she's found is that similar to what she does in her career, she's helping people. She's recommending products. She's sharing something that she loves. Feel, felt, and found. So that's why it's really beneficial to have those stories in your back pocket, if you will. You know, have a handful of them. That way, if you get some sort of an objection like this, I'm not a salesperson, I'm so busy, you have someone to reference because you may not be able to use your own specific situation. People want to know that you've not only acknowledged how they felt, but you have a relatable story. So I think that's really beneficial. Okay, next one. And I hear this one all the time. I don't want to bother my friends and family. And here's what I say to this one, because this is the honest to goodness truth. Guys, I have never, in my entire 2.5, almost 3 years, I have never asked a family member or friend to buy a product. I never have. Because this is how I run my business. I run it intentionally and I'm thoughtful about my reach outs. So yes, of course, I've sent prospecting messages, right? Hey, I've thought of you. This is what I'm doing. You'd be so great at this. Would you be interested in learning a little bit more? But never, ever, ever have I reached out and said, hey, you want to buy some skincare? Just don't. The way that we leverage our business utilizing social media, it works. They see the results. They see the photos. They see the before and after results. They look in the mirror, and eventually they're going to kind of put 2 and 2 together and realize that you're the person who's the expert. They're going to come to you for their skincare. Now, don't get me wrong. There have been many times when I've reached out to someone about the business and they've said no to the business, and that's okay. And they've defaulted to the product. So we've defaulted to the product and then they become a PC. Maybe down the road they become a consultant. But the bottom line is I have never asked a family member or friend to buy a product, and you don't have to either. Okay, last one we're going to go through today. I want to try the products first. So personally, I didn't try the products first. Some people do, some people don't. I'd say it's probably half and half, right? Some of us have, some of us are PCs prior, but I personally didn't. And so instead of complicating this question, I say something like this to them. Here's the thing. You are going to get the very best discount by investing in the kit, right? So here's like the worst possible scenario. The worst possible scenario is you join the business. Maybe the business isn't for you. Here's the worst case. You are left with a whole bunch of really, really great skincare that you got at the best possible discount. So that's my best answer on that one. I want to try the products first. So I think those are the most common objections, at least those are the ones that I get the most often. And again, I still get them, you guys. It doesn't matter how long you're in business. You're always going to have objections. The more you reach out, the more there's going to be. And guys, that is okay. But here's what I want you to know. Objections are your friend. You want to stay positive and friendly. You never want to be defensive. The whole point isn't to be negotiating or convincing, but really to use these objections as a tool, because you want to help your future prospecting and presenting improve. So think of it this way. Objections are informative, not offensive. Not offensive. So really, it's not a matter of differentiating fact from fantasy. Almost every objection is really an opportunity to break down those barriers. And the most effective team builders will never run out of ideas. They won't be swayed by any objection apart from the ones we've discussed. So I challenge you to ask yourself, how prepared are you? Have you cataloged and rehearsed the best responses to the common objections and excuses you encounter? Plug into your team, brainstorm, share, make objection and excuse handling a part of your culture. Because if you are armed with all of this, I can assure you that you will be unstoppable.
Leah, I love the way you talk about overcoming these objections and the positive spin that you put on it. Because these objections, they come up so often. And you can tell just from listening to you that you've honed your craft perfectly. So just a quick summary of some of my takeaways from what Leah has talked about objections. First, not all objections are created equally. Some could be those delay tactics. The prospect just wants to kick the can down the road, if you will. Some could be excuses, and you just need a little bit more context before you can overcome them. And then some are legitimate questions, with the prospect requesting more information to gain confidence in the business. Next, preparation is key. If you can be proactive and anticipate these objections, it's so much easier to be able to overcome them. Weave your response to these objections in your presentation or even your follow-up language, and practice these common objections. Gain that confidence in your response. Next, utilize that tried and true language of feel, felt, found. This method makes you feel more relatable and genuine when you're chatting with your prospects. And if you need a little bit of extra practice, you can feel free to practice on your kids later today if you'd like. Maybe say something like, I understand how you feel, Johnny. I felt the same way when I was your age. But what I found is that if you pick up your dirty socks off the floor, it gives you more room for activities and keeps your room smelling fresh as a daisy. Lastly, use objections as a positive in your business. Leah puts such a positive spin on these objections. These are requests for more information. If a prospect is asking a question, that means that they're engaged and they're interested. And isn't that the type of prospect that we all want? So what do you think, Leah? Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. I think that was a perfect recap. I appreciate your feedback on that. And again, I want to stress again, you guys, that objections are always going to be there no matter where you are in your business, and that they are okay. So yes, I love that you recognize that positive spin, because I think that makes all of the difference. So let's talk about a couple challenges. We've got a few of them here for you. Your challenges for this week. Personal challenges, we've got 2 of them here. Something I want you guys to do, I want you to write down your 3 most frequent objections and your responses to them. Okay, so use some of the content we talked about on this call. I want you to practice overcoming your objections 3 times each with your accountability group, and to ask for feedback. Okay, so again, remember we talked about once you kind of come up with your go-to responses, you know, that you're not going to have just one, but once you start to come up with those, it's going to make it that much easier. It's going to get you through the prospecting that much more quickly, and it's going to get you to the people that are ready to join your team now. So those are your personal challenges. Next, your team challenges. Do the same thing. Ask your team what their 3 most frequent objections are. I want you to role play with them. You can use Facebook Live on your team page if you think that that's something that you would find to be valuable. But role play with your team and have them offer their most common objections for you to overcome. Remember, they're looking at you as the leader. So once you've done that first activity, that first challenge, you're going to be able to pull those into this team challenge as well. And then finally, this is the fun part. I want you to add 10 to 20, I think 20 is a better number, 20 new names to your prospecting list. Think of friends who own a small business or want to. And then, of course, the objections are certainly going to come into play, and you are going to be armed and ready to handle them. How does that sound, Joe?
That sounds fantastic. And Leah, thank you again for taking some time to speak with us today about your experience overcoming objections. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And I can't say enough about the positive spin that you put on overcoming these objections. And it's so funny, as I was prepping for this call, I stumbled on a quote from former Congressman Frank Clark, where he said, if you can find a path with no obstacles, it probably doesn't lead anywhere. Objections wouldn't be proposed if there wasn't a level of interest in what you have to say. So again, take them as a sign of engagement from your prospect. The more objections they have, the more engaged your prospect is. Thank you to everyone for participating on today's call, and please lean on your level up community as you work out that overcoming objections muscle. Post any hurdles you have difficulty jumping. Post any language that trips you up, or common mistakes that you've seen. We'll all get better together, and I can't wait to witness your success. Have a great week, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.